Cenk Uygur indeed decided to run for Congress. The last time we spoke about this, it was a little bit up in the air. He had registered the website name, but he didn't announce that he was indeed doing it. Now he has announced that he's indeed running for Congress. It's in California's 25th district. That's Katie Hill's district. I'm sure all of you at this point know the story of Katie Hill and what happened and how she was thrown under the bus and how, she was caught basically being into some kinky sex stuff. Well, Cenk has jumped in. Ro Khanna has already endorsed him. Their other progressive leaders have endorsed him as well. Interestingly enough, there are establishment Democrats in the race as well. So it's not a foregone conclusion that he wins. There are a lot of people running for this seat. And in all seriousness, this is a little bit of an experiment. It's a little bit of an experiment, not just the idea of a new media star running for office, but it's also an ideological experiment because, we've maintained for a long time on this show, and I think the evidence to this point does bear out what we've been saying, that the idea of having to run to the center in a purple district, and that's what this is. This is a purple district. The idea of having to do that is bogus because we've had a Democratic Party that operates under that philosophy for decades now, and they've been obliterated. Donald Trump beat them under Obama and Pelosi and Schumer. The Democrats lost 1,000 seats. The way you get power and maintain power is by actually serving the people. The way you serve the people is by implementing left policies, and then you keep doing it and you don't lose. This is what happened with FDR. This is why Republicans were like, wow, we should probably do term limits or something because this guy can't lose. Because the last time we had a social democrat in power, he couldn't lose. So it's an important race for that reason. But then there's, other issues, which are the intangibles of somebody like Cenk Uygur running. He's basically given every opponent of his endless attack ads if they want to use it because he's been talking online for such a long time. And you could always go back to 2010 and find something he said that's politically incorrect and go, see, bad person. And I'm sure that's what they're going to do. And in fact, when Cenk Uygur launched his congressional bid, what he did is he pulled a little bit of an Eminem in 8 Mile, where he let everybody know all of his flaws up front and addressed them so that now it's much more politically impotent when other people try to bring it up to him. Because he can say, I already brought that up, and I already spoke about it, and I'm an open book. I'm an open book. So the personal flaws are all there. He spoke about his past of denying the Armenian genocide when he was younger. He now believes in the Armenian genocide. He basically says, listen, I was brainwashed to only know the Turkish perspective, and now that I've grown up and I've learned more, I realize that that's dead wrong and that's ridiculous. He brought up his old blogs, which of course were used in the past against him, the old blogs where he was basically trying to be a politically incorrect conservative, and he wrote some things that if you take them out of context, they look really gross, but he says, hey, listen, that was out of context. This is what I meant. I was joking around or this or that or whatever it might be. Hey, listen, this is why for such a long time, I've always been on the side of political incorrectness because we've all said things, we've all done things that are personally embarrassing or wrong. And you have to believe in evolution and you have to believe in growth. And people are not who they were when they were 18 forever. I mean, the overwhelming majority of people have gone through an immature phase, have believed stupid things. I mean, Cenk also admits that when he was younger, he had a conspiracy that he didn't believe in mold. You didn't believe in mold? What does that even mean? He thought you could will yourself out if you get sick from mold. You could will yourself out of it. It's not. It's something that, you could override with the power of your mind. In many ways, that reminds me of my dad, because I remember my dad telling me a story that when he was, I don't know, maybe 30 or something like that, he got his wisdom teeth taken out, and they gave him painkillers, or prescription for painkillers. And he was like, I'm good, I don't need that. And his thinking was like, no, I'll just if I start feeling the pain, I'll just will myself out of that and I'll be fine. I'll just, white knuckle it and get through. And then, of course, he collapsed in the middle of his job at his workplace. And he's like, I need the painkillers. Oh, my God. Because, like, your mind over matter is not always a thing. Like, with something, sure, you could say mind over matter is the thing. But when it comes to, like, physical pain, when it comes to diseases, it's not a thing. That's ridiculous. But anyway, this is a long, convoluted way of me saying he told everybody all of the stupid things he said, stupid things he's done, stupid things he's believed up front, just to be an open book and to let everybody know, hey, here's what they're going to try to hit me with. Here's the personal scandals or whatever that I've had. And then he goes on to say, but here's all the things I'm for politically. And of course, his number one thing is ending the corruption, getting money out of politics, calling a spade, saying that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are deeply corrupt, and he's not going to be like that. So he's going to fight on that front. He's going to fight on Medicare for all. He's going to fight on free college. He's going to fight on a living wage and a Green New Deal. He laid it all out in a segment that he did. In fact, it was a couple segments that they released. Now, editorial control of the show is all Anna's. He can still come on as a guest, but he can't have editorial control of the show. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And, if he runs a strong populist campaign, he can win. The only question mark in my mind is, what's the income level of the district? Because that's something. So for me, I've always thought about, and by the way, I'm not doing it. I'm just saying it's a thought that I've had of like, what if I ran in New York? Let's say I ran for Senate in New York. Again, I'm not doing it. I'm just giving it as a hypothetical example here. Where would I win? Where would I lose? What would my strategy be? Well, I already know my strategy would be to go to the low-income areas of the city, in New York City, and go to upstate New York, where, again, it's relatively lower income. The area where I 100% would not win is Westchester County. I would not win in Westchester County. Why? It's a higher income area. So no matter what I do, my populism, my brand of left-wing populism, would not sell at all in Westchester County. That message would just flop on its face. Because the one characteristic of a district that flat out rejects populism is a higher income district. Okay? So as long as it's lower income, it doesn't matter if it's right-leaning, it doesn't matter if it's left-leaning, it doesn't matter if it's a very white district, it doesn't matter if it's a minority district. As long as it's lower income, middle to lower income, then that message of populism sells really well, and it's across partisan lines. Okay? So that'll be the big question. I don't know off the top of my head what the income level of his district is, but that'll determine a lot here. Because he's a swashbuckling left-wing populist. And if the district is middle to lower income, I think people will be surprised as to how well he does. And it's also a matter of, I would advise Cenk, he's a bomb thrower too, and you can't, go after Republicans full stop. No, because again, it's a purple district. So if anything, you want to win some of their votes over. So if you want to go after establishment Republicans, DC Republicans, corrupt Republicans, that's totally fine. But you always have to be clear that I'm not talking about your average Joe voter. I'm going to fight for your average Joe voter, even if they're on the right. So, and that's an important thing. It's a distinction that he has to draw if he wants to have a chance, especially in a purple district, because you have to fight for everybody. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. I'm really looking forward to it. And to this point, now, granted, it's early on, and I could give 1,000 caveats here as to how much of an indication this is as to how he'll actually do in the special election. But to this point, what are we? He announced 3 days ago. He launched 3 days ago. You know how much money he's raised? $333,140 from 11,201 donors. They had an original goal of $200,000 in the first 2 or 3 days, I think. He's at $333,140. So this is real. This is real as a heart attack. And what the establishment Democrats don't understand is, yeah, we get it. You have your little club. You have your little clique. Certain people are allowed in. Certain people aren't allowed in. What you don't understand is this dude spent decades getting a giant following online of real people. So you have the money, you have the corporations, you have the insider knowledge, the lobbyists, the strategists. He has the people. It's a fascinating experiment. If Cenk Uygur gets into Congress, it's a game changer because he will set the narrative. Even when you look at somebody like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for example, it's still like a half the time she wants to play nice and be nice with Pelosi and have Pelosi be nice to her and not, have like an all-out civil war where she's like, you're wrong, Nancy, and I'm correct. She doesn't want to do that. She's a freshman congressperson. It's almost like she knows what's expected of her. And she does, don't get me wrong, she's wonderful and she does buck, narratives and trends, and she's phenomenally popular because she bucks narratives and trends and she fights for people. But there is still an element of like, can't we all just get along and unite with the Democrats? Whereas Cenk is not interested in uniting. He's not interested in uniting. He's interested in uniting with the people. He's interested in uniting around policy positions that everybody wants, policy positions that'll improve everybody's life. He is not interested in getting along with Pelosi at all. At all. So, man, I hope he wins. I really hope he wins. So I'll leave the link to his fundraising below if you're interested. Just give him a small dollar donation, like Bernie Sanders style, and let's see how far this goes. Let's see how good it is. And what I'm waiting for now is the media to try to destroy him. The media will throw everything they can at him. By the way, so-called lefty media, they're not going to like him because they're not actually lefty. They're establishment Democratic. And right-wing media, of course, as well. Daily Caller, I saw already had an article, Cenk Uygur had sexual rules for women. Have you ever watched The Young Turks? Do you know that him and Anna and, even prior to Anna, before she was even there, they literally like ranked the top 10 hottest whatever. Like they did all these things. I mean, yes, it's an attack dog's dream to go back and watch all the Young Turks stuff to try to find little nuggets you could take out of context or things you could say, oh, scandalous. But when he's wearing it on his sleeve and he's saying, yeah, I said it, who cares? It's going to be hard to actually use it against him. So we'll see what happens. But this is absolutely fascinating.